Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Strata Hadoop World in San Jose. I'm here with Jack Norris. Jack, how are you doing?
Good.
So how are things at MapR?
Excellent. We're growing really quickly. A lot of interest across a broad section of companies and industries, and it's really exciting to see how customers are really adopting and doing a lot with the platform.
And you're noodling on the edge now.
Yeah, we announced MapR Edge. Just announced that yesterday, and Ted did a demo on stage, the keynote. So,
what does the edge bring to people?
Well, it's, if you look at, the whole kind of internet as we know it, IoT is changing that dramatically, right? 50 billion devices in the next few years coming online, each generating content. So Ted had a whole talk, Ted Dunny had a talk on turning the internet upside down and what that means. And increasingly, it's about collecting data locally, collecting data at the edge, being as close to it as possible, doing some calculations, aggregations, reducing that set. There's many examples where you just don't have the bandwidth and constant connectivity to upload that into a central location. So having an edge process there to coordinate the data and then collect it centrally so that you get the benefit of seeing all of the edge information, the edge locations, and then learning globally, and then injecting that intelligence back to the edge.
To the local, right.
So there's some intelligence that can be done locally so that you can do low latency. You're not beholden to some centralized connection, but you benefit from the experience on a global basis or a much broader geographic basis. So you don't have to encounter every issue or event or error at the edge. You can benefit what happened in another location.
So this plugs into the MapR platform?
It's actually, the way we have deployed this is MapR Edge can run on a very small footprint like the Intel NUC, Next Unit of Computing, which are very small form factor, but it's part of the entire fabric, so you can manage it centrally as well as locally, so you've got some flexibility there. The whole data protection and security is part of the same fabric, the whole global namespace, so you can really do a lot of remote management on these edge devices without having to touch every unit.
So that'll help down the road when we're doing more smart cities other than just Singapore?
Oh, it's really across the board. So it's smart cities, it's healthcare and hospital, it's oil and gas. All of these have different edge devices that are part of a bigger whole.
Yeah. So where do you think that the state of data is now? I mean, are we changing at all, or we're repeating the same stories, it seems like, the last few years?
No.
Or have we progressed far enough along? From your own personal perspective?
I think that kind of cyclical issue is kind of a rinse and repeat process in some cases. So, originally the promise of big data was, look, we've got these individual silos, that are special purpose, and we need to bring the data together into a broader platform, whether you call it a lake or a hub or whatever, and then bring the processing to it. But then because of some design or architectural issues, you see that, well, yeah, that cluster is for this type of processing. Then if you want to do NoSQL processing, well, that's another cluster. And if you want to do streaming, which is important, well, deploy this cluster. And so pretty soon we've got silos with just different names on them.
Complexity again.
Complexity.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We think when it comes to full digital transformation that there are three basic keys. And one is convergence of the data, so that you get data in one kind of logical management plane that can be distributed from the edge to the cloud to on-premise, that you can incorporate streams into that fabric. That's kind of an integrated piece, so it's a publish and subscribe, and that can drive real-time events and this very complex association and coordination of events. And the third is just driving agility from the developer to the administrator to DevOps to the infrastructure, whether that's containers or clouds or microservices. So that's been the focus of MapR, is how do we think much bigger about big data? How do we get the platform and infrastructure in place to really raise the level?
Big data is one part of the digital transformation. but it's a key part because it's both informing where you go and it's helping you be informed of how you're doing as you're going. So how do we get that part to rinse and repeat? Because from what we're seeing is a lot of people are talking about digital transformation.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand how important data is as far as the change agent. A lot of people, you hear DevOps and you hear they want to be a lean organization. You hear, and they want to continuously deploy. You hear those over and over. But that data layer is probably the secret sauce that gets them there.
It's definitely the fuel, right? It's the engine behind digital transformation is how do you take advantage of multiple data sources and how do you understand the context and take the appropriate action. So it's the intelligence interacting with that data that's important. And whether you're looking at transforming the customer experience or whether you're focused more on the operational excellence and driving down costs and efficiency, it requires this ability to really leverage data effectively. And that's really our focus of the Converge platform is to make that really accessible and easy for companies.
So today's business leaders really need to harness the data first.
Yeah, and it's not a, here's the existing architecture and now we're going to re-architect and have this digital transformation architecture. The real key is you've got to take these very tactical steps that are part of the journey. And so, think of how do I leverage the existing infrastructure today to drive down costs and drive innovation. And we think supporting industry standards, supporting legacy applications, really wrapping those and injecting intelligence is the way to do that. So it puts a lot more focus on what's the underlying architecture to make that happen. So it's relatively simple to say, well, we're changing everything. We're going to have this new architecture and this new API and this new way of doing things. It's then hard to integrate that into the existing environment. And if you can support both legacy and modern applications at once, now all of a sudden you can incrementally pursue that. It drives higher ROI, faster adoption, and ultimately agility.
So one of the darlings in the last couple of years has been AI. Do you see AI fundamentally changing businesses in the world, basically?
Yeah, I think the best way to think about AI and machine learning is to move from it's a model and there's a curator, a data scientist of that model that's there to kind of provide insight, and think more about a business process and how you inject intelligence into that business. So it's not about the report or the big vision or a prediction. It's more about impacting business as it happens, making small adjustments. So the more data you can bring to bear, the more direct the algorithm, the intelligence that you can combine. And that's a learning that we've seen come from Google in terms of the white papers that they've written and some of the work that Ted Dunning, our chief application architect, has done with kind of the leading edge of data science for commercial adoption.
But humans are still in that loop. Data scientists are still in that loop, or someone feeding the intelligence.
Right. The important part there is the data exploration to figure out what's possible, the ability to test and use different models in place, right? But it's increasingly about what is the automated adjustment, not the insight that some business analyst has and then walks down the hall to try to implement that.
So it's the automated part. Yep.
Yep.
So how long do you think we are away from a society that we're having self-driving cars, we're having decisions made for us on a daily basis? Are we, like when we were little, our parents thought going to the moon was impossible, and then we saw it happen.
It's happening today, and I think the adoption is going to happen much, much faster than you project. Self-driving car, I think the it's not a technology issue. It's more of a regulation, cultural issue
Society,
in terms of,
yeah.
of the adoption. You know, we're already seeing kind of impacts in terms of helping improve safety through some of the technologies there.
And
There's
healthcare becomes preventative rather than insurance-based oriented.
seeing a lot happen there. Really exciting stuff in terms of, you know, incorporating underlying genomics information, patient lifestyle information, and then fine-tuning the drug delivery and treatment to improve outcomes and reduce costs.
So if we look at any business, they're either changing because of their digital transformation or they're going to be disruptive. What do you think, what disruption still needs to happen in the data world that we're not seeing right now? Is there something really ripe for disruption to change the way we as humans live and do things?
So probably the biggest disruption is what we consider an application. Starting with the application that then dictates how the data must be organized and stored was kind of how we used to do things. And I think now looking at what's the data fabric, what's the data platform that I can easily bring a series of agile processes to improve the top line activities, to deliver my product or service more efficiently, and to mitigate risk. So there's a little bit of an adjustment, right? Because the people that are typically the most familiar with data coming from the data warehouse or data science world have been trained over the years that the way to succeed is to basically understand everything you're going to do and ask ahead of time and set up the data
Right.
appropriately. And this is a huge shift, right? It's more have a data engineer focus on how you improve the flow, the availability of data, really open that up, and then bring kind of microservices and processing to it to provide agility and flexibility and really improve the cycle times and adjustments. And I've said in the past, it's not the company with the most data that's going to win, it's the company that's the most agile, right? That can understand the context and the appropriate action first.
Excellent. Well, Jack, we look forward to that future with you.
Thank you.